Hi class, welcome back. Now, we are going to have another video about the Code of Ethics in the Psychological Association of the Philippines. But now we are going to talk about the Code of Ethics Part 4.1, the General Ethical Standards and Procedures, Human Relations. So now let's go to the next page. Alright, so to continue, we are going to focus now on the human relations. So in the whole presentation, we are going to talk about the human relations in how the psychologists or psychometricians in the Philippines handle human relations in their practice. Let's start with the first one. Letter A, unfair discrimination. In our work-related activities, we shall not discriminate against persons based on age, gender identity, race, ethnicity, culture, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, disability, socioeconomic status, or any basis prescribed by law. So in here, it clearly states that any discriminatory actions is not ethical in any field where the practice of the psychologist or a registered psychometrician is being done. So for example, you're working in the office as an HR or the human resource recruiter. So you as an individual, whether you are a registered or still processing their licensure, license rather, and still going to take the board exam, you shall practice equality by not discriminating among your employees or among the applicants that you're handling. So in here again, it states clearly about their regardless of their age, gender identity, race, ethnicity, culture, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, disability, socioeconomic status, and many more. This also includes that if, for example, let's go to, for example, for the FB, because a lot of people nowadays are using Facebook, and also once, of course, they are using Facebook, they also post their information on Facebook, like for example, they are registered psychometrician or a registered psychologist. This also includes that since you are carrying the name, or you're carrying the name of being a license here in the Philippines, and you are also once you carry the name, you're also stating unconsciously that you are part of the Psychological Association of the Philippines. So because of that, you have the responsibility to practice equality and not discriminate among people of different regions here in the Philippines. That also includes the different cultures and different beliefs and ethnicity. Letter B, sexual harassment. We do not engage in sexual harassment as defined in the Philippine Anti-Sexual Harassment Act. So as a registered or a future psychometrician and a psychologist, we also should comply to the legal law of the Republic Act of the Philippines. That's number 7877, which is the Philippine Anti-Sexual Harassment Act. So any sexual harassment or any related or a similar act towards that can offend someone can be considered as sexual harassment. So in here, we should do not engage in any sexual harassment. Letter C, other harassment. We shall not knowingly harass or demean persons with whom we interact in our work on the basis of those persons' age, sex, gender identity, race, ethnicity, culture, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, disability, language, or socioeconomic status. In here, other harassments includes, other harassments can again, here in our country, we already have the RA number 7877. However, those are defined legal harassments. Okay, there are also other harassments in that can also be included in there. Okay, so however, some of it are not yet included. Like for example, having an environment, a toxic environment that can that degrades degrades the individual. Okay, so or for example, uncomfortable invitations. Okay, so uncomfortable invitations entails to keeping the person keep asking the person to go out with you even though he or she already declined your invitations once or twice. All right, so those are other harassments. So here uh, we should not knowingly harass or demean any individual regardless of their background. Letter D. Avoiding harm. We shall take reasonable steps to avoid harming our clients or patients, students, supervisees, research participants, organizational clients, and others with whom we work, and to minimize harm where it is foreseeable but unavoidable. So in here we should avoid harm regardless of if that would be physical, if that would be emotional, uh, or anything that could harm the individual. Okay, so as professionals in the future, we should take reasonable steps to avoid it, to avoid to harm the person, regardless of any way. Okay, so it can be physical or emotional or mental. Okay, so we should avoid it. Okay, so but in case, all right, but in case the in the future harm is unavoidable, you should at least minimize it. Okay, so like for example, if your client is going to take a suicidal ideation scale. So for example, if there's a scale just like that, okay, so wherein a scale will just measure the suicide tendency or the suicidal tendency of the client. So since the client, you as an observer or a licensed or registered psychometrician or psychologist, observe that the client already has a very high tendency of suicide, um, and then of course you have to make sure if what you see is real, okay, or true. So what you're going to do is, of course, you're going to administer a scale that will measure suicidal ideation. However, of course, that scale can either trigger the suicidal thoughts of the individual as well, or that scale can actually help the idea. Help the individual thinks of other ways to complete the suicide. So in here, you have to at least minimize the harm. Okay, you can either get another scale, all right, check its validity and also its restrictions and limitations as well. All right, so as much as possible, you have to avoid harm to the to your clients, research participants, supervisees, and many more. Letter E. Multiple relationships. Number 1. We shall refrain from entering into a multiple relationship if the multiple relationships could reasonably be expected to impair our objectivity, competence, or effectiveness in performing our functions as psychologists, or otherwise risk exploitation or harm to the person with whom our professional relationship exists. So in here, it clearly states that we should not enter into a multiple relationship. So what does multiple relationship means? So in the psychometric world, okay, so in the psychometric world, you're if you're a psychometrician, you have the clients, or what we call the clients, for example, the clients. So in there, you have already a relationship. Okay, you psychometrician client relationship. All right, so from there you should only focus on that relationship. Okay, you should not enter other multiple relationships. So multiple relationship entails to having other relationship of what you already have. For example, you're a psychometrician and then you have a client, so you're automatically you have the psychometrician client relationship. However, you're going to enter into a multiple relationship if that relationship exceeds into another new level. Like for example, you started dating your client, so that from there on you entered a multiple relationship. So in here it clearly states in here that you shall not refrain, or you shall you shall refrain from entering into multiple relationships. So as much as possible, please do avoid entering multiple relationships because it could impair your objectivity, your competence as a professional, and also your effectiveness in the field and also your expertise. So that's letter E, multiple relationships, number 1. Let's go to the second one. The multiple relationship occurs when a psychologist is in a professional role with a person at the same time. Number 1 is in another role with the same person, or number 2 is in a relationship with a person closely associated with or related to the person with whom the psychologist has the professional relationship, or number 3, promise to enter into a future relationship with that client or patient, or a person closely associated with or related to that client or patient. So here are in this slide, it clearly states the different scenarios wherein an individual can avoid of entering multiple relationships. So like for example, number 1 is in another role with the same person. So like what I've mentioned in my previous slides, for example, you already the psychometrician and you have a client, so you already have a professional relationship there. But once you exceeded a relationship more than that, you are entering a multiple relationship. So that's what number 1 is stating. So you should not enter another role from being aside from being the professional. Number 2 is in a relationship with a person closely associated with or related to the person with whom the psychologist has the professional relationship. So in here, it states that you should refrain from making relationship with your clients, client or the one associated with your client. So for example, if your client is a girl, you should not, or you should refrain dating her sister. All right, okay, because of course it can also block or blur the sensitivity, the objectivity of your results. Okay, all right, and then number 3, so again that's what number 2 is stating. Number 3, promises to enter into a future relationship with that client or patient or a person closely associated with or related to the client or patient. So in here, it also states that you are no, even though your client is attractive, but you are not, you should not promise to enter a future relationship with that client or related to that client, or anyone who's related with that client. Okay, so as you can see here, as much as possible, it should only have, you and your client should only have a professional relationship. If, however, we shall find that due to unforeseen factors upon a potentially harmful multiple relationship has arisen, we shall take reasonable steps to resolve it with regard for the best interest of the affected person and the maximum compliance with the ethics code. So in here, it states that, okay, I know that we are all individuals with, of course, feelings and could develop in the future, okay? So, but in here, it states in here, but in case something like that happens, or you've entered a multiple relationships in the future unexpectedly, so what you should do is you have to take responsible steps to resolve it. Okay, so if you have to cancel the sessions, do it. If you have to cancel the relationship, do it. Okay, and you have to make sure that the client's best interest will be the priority. Okay, so again, you have to make sure, or you have to think first about the client. And also, you also, aside from that, you have to comply maximally to the code of ethics here in the Philippines. Okay, so again, um, as much as possible, please do avoid multiple relationships in the future. Okay, let's go to number 2. When we shall be required by law, institutional policy, or extraordinary circumstances to serve in more than one role in judicial or administrative proceedings, at the outset, we shall endeavor to inform the authorities about our code of ethics, to clarify role expectations and extent of confidentiality, and therefore as changes occur. All right, so in here it clearly states, so number 1, it focuses on the other relationships that a professional could have. In here, uh, other relationships can also entail to other roles that a psychologist or psychometrician can do in the future. Like for example, if you are asked to go in the court, okay, so for example, you're a clinical psychologist, and what you do, or oh no, you are a psychotherapist. Okay, so you're a psychologist. However, what you do is mainly give psychotherapy. So you're already a psychotherapy. However, you were invited, okay, uh, in court to act as the psychologist. So what you're going to do, okay, from there you already have a different role. Okay, so uh, in here you should, okay, I'm sorry, but also that entails, for example, of the same client. Okay, so you're a psychotherapist in that of client A, and then you were required or requested in court to be the psychologist of the client, of the same client A. All right, so from there you already have a different role, and from there you will act, yes, you will have a different relationship with the client. So in here, what you're going to do is you have to inform the authorities about the code of ethics in the Philippines, or our PAP code of ethics. And also, you have to clarify your role, expectations, and the confidentialities and its limitations as well. All right, so that's it for the first part of this video. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you on our next video. Thank you. Bye for now.